I want to bring in Democratic Congressman Ruben Gallego of Arizona. Congressman, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, as we were talking about on DACA, Deferred Action on Childhood Arrivals, deadline on Monday, you represent a state with 12% immigrant population. What will you say to your constituents if you're not able to pass anything?
Well, I think we have to recognize how this started. This was an entirely manufactured crisis. We, and when I say we, the members of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, of which I'm leadership, have tried working with the White House and come up with compromises. There has been no positive interaction with them. We have a failure of leadership on Paul Ryan's part that even when the Senate had some good language, he basically shot it down. So we have a problem right now in terms of failed leadership. Failed leadership on part of the Speaker Ryan, failed leadership on part of Mitch McConnell, and more importantly, entirely failed leadership on Donald Trump, because he was all over the place when we were trying to negotiate a compromise that would have made everybody happy.
You know, Senator Dick Durbin, Democrat, from Illinois, said that ultimately these midterms will determine the fate of DACA. Do you agree with him?
I think that's partially true. I mean, I think we have to get out the vote for those that are interested in helping out to stabilize the future of these dreamers, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. We want to make sure they return. But we also have to change the politics of Washington, D.C. Right now, we're still operating under this old rule called the Hastert rule that the Republicans essentially use to control government. And that's why we can't get any good compromises through, because Paul Ryan doesn't have the leadership or the courage to stand up to the hardcore conservatives within his party.
You've been very critical of House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi. Do you think she's the right woman moving forward to push policy forward on this? I
think right now we as a party just want to make sure that we have the best chances of winning in the upcoming elections, and that we can protect everyday Americans from the abuses of this Trump administration. So I don't want to go switching generals in the middle of a war or whatever other analogy. But obviously for me, it's always important to reanalyze every new election to see if we could get better leadership, then we should get it.
We've seen the school shooting in Parkland. We've seen efforts by those students to get something done. Do you believe, are you confident that something will happen on gun control legislation?
I think we will. I mean, I'm disappointed the president is backtracking so quickly, but not surprised. I'm not surprised that Paul Ryan again is kowtowing to the NRA. But these young men and women are dedicated. I've had the chance to meet them. They are going to change the future of gun control policies. It may first start at the state level, but they will eventually win. And I think it's incumbent upon Democrats and Republicans to listen to them and actually come up with some sane legislation.
Where are you the most hopeful on Capitol Hill that you can actually see action on a national level?
I certainly believe that with enough pressure from the public, not just these students, we can get rid of bump stocks. We can do a universal background check, and if we push hard enough, we can pass sane legislation to deal with assault weapons. And there's ways to do it where we can assure that hunters and people that want to protect themselves can have the weapons they like, the rifles they like, but at the same time, these killing machines, like the ones I used in Iraq, are not in the hands of civilians.
You also sit on the House Committee on Natural Resources. I want to ask you about the central reason, some people are saying, for shrinking the Bear Ears Monument in Utah was really for oil and gas exploration. What do you make of that?
I truly do believe that. We've heard, first of all, the conservative theory the whole time when it comes to national parks and forest land is that it should be exploited instead of preserved, like many of us do, for future generations. Number two, it follows most of what you're seeing is essentially the MO of the Trump administration, where they're selling off parts of our government, parts of our future for profit to their friends versus preservation, which is what Teddy Roosevelt eventually thought.
So how do you counter that?
Well, for example, I introduced legislation to undo the president's bill when it comes to the Bears Ears National Monument. We've also need to take them to court because we do believe it's a violation of the Monuments Act that has been essential in preserving a lot of these lands for many years now. I'm going to be going out to Bears Ears and actually taking people so actually they understand and see the beauty of what the Trump administration is trying to break. But if you truly care about this issue, you need to contact your state rep, your state senators, your members of Congress, and make them understand that these types of monuments, these national parks, these national forests, they're our inheritance, and we want to make sure we pass that inheritance to our future kids.
Congressman Gallego, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.